This video is sponsored by Full Reptile Collective, brought to you by Dan Hardy. Head over to their website at fullreptile.co.uk where you can find anything from training gear, t-shirts, hoodies, all the way to coffee. For an exclusive 10% off, use Dan Said So at checkout. Make sure to also check out their YouTube channel for some of the best MMA content out there, bar my own. Let's get back to the video. Alright, so UFC London, which is on the 19th of March, 2022. The BearJew is back and he's fighting Nikita Krylov. Now, Nikita Krylov kind of has a pressurizing style. He's not exclusively, I would say, great in any one department. He likes to stand, but he likes to sit in your guard almost. He likes to take you down, but not pass guard. If he's going to get a grappling side, it's maybe to make it dirtier, maybe to make it, maybe to sap the energy of the opponent. But I feel like his normal style of fighting in this fight suits Paul Craig in how he likes to prepare. Paul Craig kind of fell in love with his hands, and you can stop me if you think I'm wrong here, but I think Paul Craig, that's the reason for his losses. He abandoned the jiu-jitsu for a lot of the losses there, especially the Tyson Pedro one. He kind of fell in love with striking, and he didn't even look like he was going to go down. He was like, I like my hands at the moment, because he was so successful at Bama with his hands. Yeah. It always sets up him pulling guard as well, which is, if Nikita sits in his guard, you know, we saw what happened with Jamahal Hill and the floppy arm fish. So
I think you're right. I think if Krylov wants to play that grappling jiu-jitsu game with Craig, I think Krylov will lose, if I'm honest. I totally agree with you. He loved his hands. I'll never forget it in the build-up to the Roundtree fight at Glasgow. He said he was going to knock Roundtree out. Now, I don't know what Khalil Roundtree's record is like, but I don't imagine there's many folk that have actually knocked him out because he's so big. And again, it goes back to what you say, Craig fell in love with his hands. But I mean, look what happened against Ankalaev in London. You know, he get battered and then submitted him. So I don't know how this will go, because as you say, I agree with what you say about Krylov as well. Very well-rounded, but not expert in anything. So it could really go either way. They could grapple for 15 minutes, or you know, they could kickbox for 15 minutes. Who knows?
It's absolutely. And the thing is with Krylov as well is you saw how good he was against someone like Johnny Walker, dealing with someone of that size. Johnny's 6'6", and he's got an 80-inch reach, give or take. 88, that'd be just Mr. Tickle. But he's he managed to nullify it by getting in really close. Basically, all the explosive power of Walker is done out of the clinch. As soon as he bursts, he does the spins, he loves his elbows. All of that was kind of completely nullified by just getting in so close. It was just sapping Walker's energy. When he fought Glover Teixeira, like even that's a really close fight to call.
Yep.
This is the kind of level Krylov is at, where he's losing to arguably the best of the division. He's losing to the champion and the former champion in those fights, in Glover and Yan. And his last time out, he lost to Ankalaev in a decision. And that's one fight you can he was a lot more in the fight against Ankalaev than Paul Craig was. But Paul Craig somehow pulled that triangle out in the last dying second. And, you know, I still count that as a Paul Craig loss in my head.
It's a difficult one, because
it is, isn't it?
It's totally, but I think, like, I get what you're saying about Krylov closing the distance. I think the problem with that, if he tries to close, Paul Craig's nowhere near as good a striker as what Johnny Walker is, doesn't have the length, but if Krylov tries to get inside, Craig will just grab a hold of him. And then, so it's going to be interesting to see how Krylov plays it, because if he stands in boxes with Paul Craig, as we said, it could go either way. If he goes inside, Paul will take him down. It could go either way. I would say Paul Craig has an edge on the ground, but it's really intriguing. It's a really, really good matchup by the UFC here. I think it's really intriguing.
Yeah, the ground is more. One guy's got sambo wrestling, hasn't he? Pin and hold, maybe pass and smash. Whereas Paul is just pure jiu-jitsu off his back.
Yeah,
he's got the long limbs. He can tie you up with the omoplatas, and that's what I'm scared of, because if Krylov does go in and use his trick, all of his techniques are going to be nullified by the guard of Paul Craig. Yep. And I'm saying it as well. It's like Paul Craig's got crap hands. He's got great striking. He's a very good striker. Yeah. And I think the reason he started firing more as well is he doesn't worry about being taken down. He pulls guard. So he's just going to throw. That's what I believe. I think he's going to come out just absolutely throw. He has never had a cardio issue. Doesn't gas.
Mm-mm.
Krylov
Nah.
Krylov slows down dramatically in the third rounds. So yeah, it's perfect matchmaking.
Big punches, and I don't think Krylov has that. I think if you look at when Menefield has like cannons for arms, Jimmy although he subbed him, Jimmy had big arms, and Khalil sparked him out. Even Pedro, long, rangy, good striking. So I don't think Krylov has the power as such to maybe worry Paul Craig. I think. I mean, listen, I genuinely think it could go either way. Obviously, the Scot in me thinks that Paul Craig's going to do it, and I'd love to have my face painted, with BearJew face paint, but it just depends. It could go either way, honestly.
And if he does win, you're literally in the elite of the division to me. I rate Krylov very highly. He's been in the UFC nearly a decade, believe it or not. It's 9 years. That is a veteran if you've ever seen one. I know Craig's only got a couple fights left in him.
Yeah.
But
Krylov dropped out the UFC obviously for a bit. After he beat by Surkinov, which was a bit strange because obviously up to that point he was, he'd only lost 3 in the UFC and left the UFC, won a title elsewhere and came back. So, and as you say, he's 3 losses, Ankalaev to Shera Blaovic. You're talking top 5 guys in the world, So, I totally agree with you. It's definitely elite level. It's probably Paul Craig's biggest fight, I would say, to date. Certainly his biggest challenge. I know fighting Shogun was a big deal, but that's more like a nostalgic big deal. Like, oh my God, you're fighting Shogun, that's class. Not in terms of, a ranked opponent. So yeah.
Yeah, that Shogun way past his prime. I think he was like 37 or 38, wasn't he, when they rematched? And that first fight as well shouldn't have even been a draw.
No, it shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have been a draw, to be honest. But he got it back. He got the win that he had the first time round anyway, so it didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, it's a shame, as you said. I love Krylov. I know you do as well. And although it's hard for me because if Krylov was fighting anybody else, I'd probably be Team Krylov. But it's just not happening, man. Not this time.
The only one thing I'd like to throw in the mix as well is where Krylov is from. He is Ukrainian.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening over there in Ukraine and headspace at the moment. We saw it with Moroz last week. Made no fucking difference. She just steamrolled and got the grappling going. She was the massive underdog as well. I picked her, might say that. But it's that kind of, is it going to play anything on his head? I don't think it will, but it's just something that maybe the bookmakers will look at, maybe fans will look at, and obviously it's home. It's a home advantage still for Craig. He's going to have a lot of his own people there.
Absolutely, absolutely, I totally agree. I mean, a wee bit of background on Krylov, like he is Ukrainian, but like it's funny. He's from a place called Luhansk, which is very Russian. And he's stated in the past he's wore uniforms with Russian flags on them before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did come out. I don't know if it was this week or last week or a couple of weeks ago, and said basically that he was against the invasion. So obviously he's very Ukrainian, but I think there's a part of him where during training and things like that, he has like adopted the Russian flag. But how into that he is, I don't know. It could just be for that. Either way, mate, he's Ukrainian. He was born there, so he's going to have some sort of emotional attachment to it either way, So it certainly makes for an interesting fight anyway. That's for sure. Yeah.
So who are you going to go for? You're going to go for. You got to go with the Scot, haven't you? You got to go with the Scot.
Yeah, I've got
to home turf.
Absolutely. Yeah, a home turf. Well, home-ish turf. It's not home.
Home-ish.
Come on.
No, well, it's as close as home you're going to get for a while, I think, with all the travel bans.
That's true. Absolutely. Yeah. Home turf. I'll have a good crowd. He never really seems that G'd up by the crowd, to be honest with you, though. Paul Craig is always quite serene, quite calm. Even when in London against Ankalaev, it didn't really seem to, spur him on or anything like that. So, like, I think he's just quite calm about it all. But yeah, I think it has to be Paul Craig for me, mate. Yeah. You?
Yeah. I actually think he's going to finish him. I think it's a stylistical matchup for. There's no way you can avoid Paul Craig's ground game for that amount of time, and unless he just sparks him, which I hate ever saying, oh, he's just like that could happen, because that's not an analytical point you can go through. Oh, someone could catch someone else. I hate that saying, because I could theoretically go in and spark Paul Craig. It's not, the percentage is so small, it's not worth even mentioning. And I think the percentage is quite small for Nikita Krylov to go in and just smash him to bits, because no one's done that.
Well, no, I mean the closest
Tyson Pedro, but that was he had his chin like this.
Yeah, I mean Menifield maybe as well, because Menifield kind of, but it was a weird one. It was on the ground when Menifield knocked him out and stuff like that. But yeah,
you're talking about someone with genetic powers there.
Yeah, exactly. Krylov, as I said, Krylov doesn't have that power. It would have to be, a 1 in 100 punch for Paul to knock out. Plus, I think Paul is looking the best he's ever looked, to be honest with you. His training videos are insane. So yeah. No, definitely Paul Craig for the win here, mate. Absolutely.